Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's digital event, AECO Space, Designing a Winning Employer Brand in Architecture and Design. My name is Debbie Falk, and I am an account manager at ArcVision, and I am very excited to introduce Angelina Pinova. She's the head of marketing at AECO Space. She has over 15 years of experience specializing in internal communications, culture building, and employer branding. Also joining us today is Corey Rubidoux, CEO of ArcVision. During the presentation, Angelina is going to give us an overview of AECO's offerings and answer any questions that you may have. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so feel free during the presentation to put your questions into the chat, and we'll address those during that time. With that said, I will turn the floor over to Angelina.
Thank you very much, Debbie, and thanks everybody for joining today's webinar. It's a pleasure to see you, and hello from Europe. We're based in Europe and in a slightly different time zone, and thank you to ArcVision for the invitation to join this webinar today. I'll share my screen now to start the presentation, and we can start from there. So before we get started, I wanted to give you a sense of how this webinar will be structured and what you can expect in terms of the contents of this session today. So you can plan your time and see what interests you and what not. Of course, we hope you'll stay until the very end, because that's when we'll be addressing the questions. Feel free to drop them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them at the end of the session. Today, we're going to talk about employer branding in architecture. It's a challenging topic for many companies, and that's one of the things we're trying to solve at AECO Space. I'll be talking about this at the end of the session as well. I'll try to give you an understanding of what employer branding in architecture is and in what employer branding in general is. I'm not sure who's joining today. That's why we're going to cover some definitions at the very beginning. Then in part two, I'll share some case studies from some of the biggest employer brands in architecture that will be useful for you to see how they position themselves and what they do in terms of employer branding. And because these are very popular names, you'll be able to resonate with them very easily and see how they do it right. In part three, I'm going to share some more tips for building a successful employer brand. And in part four, I'm going to talk a little bit our platform, which allows you to create company pages that showcase your employer brand. And we're gonna address your questions during the session. So with that being said, let's get started. Before I share some basic definitions about employer branding, I wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are. We started a few years ago as a software sales company in South Europe, and both the founder of the company, Dejan, and myself, we used to work at Chaos, the creators of V-Ray, as sales and marketing people, and most of our experience in architectural visualization comes from there. When the company started its activities in 2018, it was primarily focused on software sales and consulting. But with time, as you know, when you start to do business and to create services and products, we found out that most of the people in our community have a problem, and that problem is that they are not networked and they don't know how to find business partners, employees, people who they can turn to for subcontracting tasks. And they were calling us all the time as the person who was selling their software to put them in touch. And that's why we decided a couple of years ago to start a platform. It's called the AECO Space platform, for our brand name, to help people in architecture to do business networking and to help employers find their next hires much more easily. We know, at least in Europe, that hiring top talent in architecture is very, very challenging. For example, in Germany alone, I think a recent report stated that 6 out of 10 positions in architectural firms are left vacant because of troubles finding the right talent and in general attracting the right people to the company. And because I've been doing employer branding and internal communications for so long, I switched to working with our clients, the clients of the platform, to help them get better visibility through the platform and create a better understanding of their employer brand, so they could recruit easily and with lower costs. So that's the role I'm joining in today in this webinar. And I want to share just a few slides at the beginning, because I don't know who's joining us today and what roles you have at your organizations. Hopefully you are people who deal with marketing or HR, or you're business owners and team leaders at your organizations, and that's why you're interested in this topic. But let's set the tone a little bit for this topic and give you some definitions first. So your employer brand is the term which is used to describe how your current employees and your future candidates see you. And the truth is, your employer brand is the main differentiating factor in the eyes of candidates. Your employer brand may just be the reason that candidates pick you over the competition, especially if salary and role are equal. Employer branding encompasses everything from the reputation of the company, its culture, through employee engagement and leadership. So it's very important that you create a well-crafted employer brand. It helps you stand out in the competitive architectural and design industry. And hopefully by the end of the webinar, you'll be convinced that firms with a strong employer brand report lower hiring costs and much better retention rates. To get a better understanding whether you're successful in your employer branding efforts, I believe that you can get an understanding of some HR metrics such as time of hire, cost of hire, turnover, and so on. These are very important so that you can get an understanding whether you're successful in your employer branding efforts. And the employer brand combines both tangible and more emotional factors. So tracking the employer branding effectiveness is a mix of both qualitative and quantitative measures. For example, you can conduct surveys and feedback sessions with your employees, or conduct net promoter score surveys in your organization to get an understanding, or even go to review scores from Glassdoor and LinkedIn to get a qualitative content understanding of what employees, current and former, say about you, to get an understanding whether you're successful as an employer brand. But the truth is, it mainly boils down to the cost of hiring and retaining talent. I recently came across a report which states that a successful employer brand can help cut down costs per hire by 50%, which is a very significant figure. And it's something that all companies are interested in bringing down. So a strong employer brand improves employee experience, which might lead employees to refer suitable candidates for open positions in the company, and then also cut costs. So when it comes to hiring, every company has a reputation and a perception. And from my experience, I've worked with employers who believe that because they have not made any efforts in promoting their employer brand, a perception about their employer brand doesn't exist. But company culture and employee experience, they get shaped unconsciously through the daily interactions in your organization. And later, then they get communicated by your employees through word of mouth and employee reviews. So whether you know about it or not, your employer brand exists, and you need to get a pulse of what people are saying about your company as an employer. And if your employer brand image is positive, hooray, more candidates will come to you. And in fact, they'll even proactively come to your career page when you have an opening. So the slide I'm showing you right now, it's showing an employer branding strategy funnel and the three main pillars that shape that employer branding experience. Inside each pillar, you can see the metrics, the KPIs that each pillar is defined by. And below each box, you can see what kind of communication channels, what kind of activities you can be using to shape the ideal perception about your employer brand. So as you see, it all starts with industry awareness and perception. Then it goes down to candidate experience once you start interacting with potential hires. And later on, when people join your company through the experience of your culture and your work and your leadership, they get to form an opinion about your employer brand. That's an interesting chart in my mind because it shows that in the very first pillar, you can be really proactive about what you want to say about your brand. It's all about communication, and it's all about how you shape it and how you want to convey your message to the audience. It's going to media for interviews. It's optimizing your page for search engine optimization. It's creating a compelling career page, participating at events, and some social media visibility through posts and videos. But then once people get to know you through those channels, comes the hard time when they start interacting with your brand by applying for a job. And you can still control your communication by crafting a compelling job ad that attracts people. But once candidates come into your hiring funnel and start interacting with you as a hiring manager and start joining interviews, start getting tasks, interview tasks or offers from you, then we're talking not so much about communication, but about experience design. It's whether the hiring manager comes on time for the interview and doesn't leave the candidate waiting at the reception desk or at the Zoom call. It's whether during the interview process, the job description is conveyed to the best extent possible. And it's the impression that you make during the interview through the tasks you give the candidate, the questions you ask. So these are the moments when things start to get a little bit out of control, because without intentional experience design, you're not sure what the opinion of the candidate is with your company. And then when we move to the third pillar, the employee experience pillar, it becomes even harder and more challenging, because then we're talking about processes such as onboarding a new hire, performance management, career growth, internal communication, structuring the employee's work, etc., etc. So these are processes which all leave an impression with the person that you hired. And unless you've been very intentional about designing those processes, you're not sure what the impression of that hire is with your employer brand. So That's why it's important to mindfully design your hiring, onboarding, and performance management processes. I'm a big fan of storytelling and story capturing, and that's my passion. And I'm trying to help companies capture the stories of their employees to communicate on their careers pages. So that's why I'm going to give you this analogy. Think of your employee as the hero of the story, and try to walk in their shoes when designing those company experiences. Because the stories that they're going to experience are the stories that they're going to tell later on to their friends and on review websites. And these are the most powerful testimonials that are going to shape your employer brand. And this leads me to the next important question. And this is, do you have an employee value proposition? If employer brand is the story you tell the potential hire, then the employee value proposition should be the star of your story. It's basically a clear proposition that gives an idea of your company culture, the benefits, the career growth, your values. Many companies have an employee value proposition. I don't think I'm saying anything new to you, but some are not intentional in designing it. Some think of this as a very superficial exercise, and they just write something down which is very repetitive to what other companies already say about being an open and people-centric culture and encouraging career growth and acting daily by our values. But not many companies take the time to do a deep and mindful design of this process. And that's where they get stuck, because they sound similar to other companies on the market, and they're failing to differentiate compared to their competitors. So if you have a clear employee value proposition, this would ensure that you have a brand whose business goals and values are aligned with your employees. Basically, you'll be attracting the employees that resonate with your brand's culture and your brand's values. So it's an important exercise to go through. And just to really quickly to help you in doing this, I've taken the liberty of asking a few questions that would help you to go through this process a little bit easier. Do you have a clear and short answer to each question in the EVP diagram? Do you know what your culture is? Do you know what your benefit system is? Can you describe in a short and a clear way what your work environment is? And what are the compensation and career development opportunities at your company? An even harder question is, how often do you communicate these elements of your employee value proposition to your current and potential hires? I'm pretty sure that if you already have an EVP, you communicate it through your job ads. I hope so. But do you take bits and pieces from your EVP and create social media posts out of those? Do you get testimonials from your employees on different aspects from the employee value proposition and then share them during career events, also in social media? And what channels do you use to communicate your EVP? Sometimes we communicate the EVP externally because we're focused on hiring, but retention is equally important. So internally communicating the EVP is also super important. Of course, it shows through the daily interactions and through daily work. But if you have an internal newsletter, for example, showcasing some of your team's achievements during the past quarter or month, that could speak a lot about your culture and values, and that could reinforce your message internally. that could help your employees resonate even further with your employee value proposition and make them ambassadors of it. So how often do you communicate it, and what channels do you use to do it? And I think the hardest question is there a discrepancy between what's desired and what's real? I think that's the biggest challenge I've seen in engaging in client work on employer branding, because there are those big statements that everybody wants to put on a billboard and advertise as an employer. But when you go to have a coffee in the company's kitchen, and when you start listening in to conversations that employees have, then you hear some different stories. And that's an important truth test that I believe that everybody who's engaged in employer branding should be engaged in, because the discrepancy between what's desired and what's real is sometimes not obvious to the people who design the employer brand. And that's where some dangers lie, because those reviews, those reviews on LinkedIn and other job sites might show something else. And then all of a sudden it seems like your employer brand is not for real. It's not a truthful statement that you're trying to put out to the world. So when engaging in employee value proposition design, I would suggest at least asking those questions and seeing whether there's any room for improvement, both internally and externally, and whether there's a need to fill a gap between what's desired and what's real. Before I move on to the case studies, which is part 2 of today's webinar, these were just some main concepts that I wanted to share with you, some stepping stones that you can use on your journey towards mindfully designing your employer brand. But before we move on to the next slides, I wanted to spend a moment to highlight some differences between employer branding in architecture and other industries, because I've been involved also in employer branding for technology and finance companies, also for FMCG companies and hotel chains. So all kinds of businesses I've worked with. And what seems to me pops up for architecture as a differentiator compared to other industries is that the architectural industry is focused heavily on creativity. And your ideal employee persona seeks a balance between that creative freedom and also the structure of an organization that would keep them safe and secure and give them some sort of direction in their daily work. Also, employees in architecture are very focused on specific projects. They're so excited when a new project comes in and they have a chance to work on it and change the urban environment or change a whole, I don't know, whole country with this project. So these kind of employee personas are very project centric, and their career revolves from one project to another, whether it's exciting or not, and how to make it even more rewarding when working on it. And workplace culture is also very important for architectural professionals, because they work mostly as part of teams. I took some time to review reviews on Glassdoor for some of the companies that we're going to highlight now. And most of the reviews, that was super interesting to me, were speaking about how people are super happy with their colleagues and the people that they work with. So leverage that, because your employees are actually your wealth, and they give that special flavor to your culture that new hires appreciate a lot, because they have somebody to lean on. and they want to collaborate with other people. They want to take part in a creative process that's not, a single person creative process, but they want to work with other people. So that's something that's really important. These are all things that you see on this slide that could be helpful for you to design the employer brand and to design your employee value proposition. And another thing that was really interesting to me is that long-term retention is key to some of those employees. Of course, it's also key to the architectural firms. But compared to other industries, such as the information technology industry, people in architecture tend to stay longer. And that's an important aspect of employer branding that you should be taking into consideration. So having said that, I'm going to move on to the second part of our session, which is showing some employer branding case studies with some of the most popular names out there. And I've chosen those names because they speak a lot, and probably you've noticed a lot of their employer branding efforts already, and you know how they do it. But I'm going to try to analyze it from a different angle. And that's the question I've put on this slide here. It's what's your positioning and communication angle? My point being that especially big companies, they work on all sides of the employer branding equation. So they all work on the perfect onboarding process. They all work on perfecting their job ads. They all work on diversity and inclusion initiatives. They all create events. So they do it all, but still they have a special flavor that shows through their employer branding and through their communication. And that's what sets them apart, and what makes candidates and employers choose one employer to the other. So these are the brands we're going to cover now in just a few minutes. So, for example, Gensler, what we see in their communication is that their main focus is on purpose and meaningful work. They talk a lot about their mission to create a better world through design. They want to help their employees reimagine the future with them. It's a very bold promise, and it gives candidates an idea that they're going to be working on something big that's going to change society. They also focus a lot on strong diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And they also focus on employee engagement through sustainability and innovation programs. So by actively communicating their commitment to social impact, that makes them attractive to talent that has the same values of purpose-driven work. Okay, moving on. That might seem a little bit abstract, but moving on to HOK. Of course, they also work on solving the future's problems and social impact and everything else, but their focus somehow lies in community service and pro bono work opportunities. They have this Diversity Advisory Council, which supports mentorship and inclusion. And they have a very active promotion on their career page about the benefits and perks that they offer. So their well-rounded approach to employer branding ensures that employees feel valued. It's more of a people-centric approach compared to Gensler's, which is more of a change the world with your vision in your projects. Moving on to Perkins&Will's. As you can see, they also have this people-first culture, but they focus more on strong mentorship programs and professional development. So these are all initiatives that they have. They have this leadership institute, which teaches leadership skills to their employees. They have this innovation incubator. They have an internship focus. And they also focus family on work-life balance and recognize their employees' families as their own families. So it's a very family-focused culture. It's a people-first culture, and it has slightly different flavor compared to the other two that I showed before. So imagine yourself as a future employee and trying to pick your future employer. Which of these three messages would resonate more with you based on your personal values and priorities? Moving on to Bjarke Ingel's group. It's fascinating to me how they use social media storytelling, because they offer so many behind the scenes videos and photos and interviews, and they share their projects in very aesthetic ways. So this all brings out the beauty of their projects in social media. So it's a very beautifully designed grid on Instagram that they have. But they also encourage their employees to share their experiences, which strengthens brand authenticity. And you can see on this slide that there are some posts related to working in the studio and what a day of the life of the architect that Big is. So it's an interesting mix. And I think what I'm getting the most out of it is respect and focus on the creative process, both by showing how people work on a project and also showing the behind the scenes of a project. And last but not least, from my case studies is Zaha Hadid Architects. I believe that they maintain a strong employer brand by emphasizing the legacy they're building. And they're very focused on innovation and research initiatives. So I think they're very attractive to ambitious architects who want to really make a dent at the architectural profession and do something that's really ambitious, innovative, something that hasn't been seen before. So just to show you those logos once again, and to show you those 2 or 3 words that I believe capture the essence of their brand, employer brand. I believe that all of them do a really, really amazing job in communicating to potential hires and retaining their current employees. And what they do even better is choosing one of the many aspects of the employee value proposition and focusing really heavy on it, both as internal priorities and how they want to build their culture, but also focusing their outward communication towards that aspect. In media relations, where I've used to work, we call this a news angle. It's your very specific hook. It's that news event and the reason that the news editor will want to publish your story. So it should tell how it affects your industry, your organization, and your community. Depending on who am I as a candidate, as a potential employee, I might be drawn to any of these brands, employer brands, based on my current priorities and also my view of life and my own values. As a person who's focused heavily on innovation and making a dent before in my previous career, Most probably in my younger years, I would have been drawn primarily by a studio such as Zaha Hadid. But now I'm learning more in this later stage of my career. I'm learning more to enjoy the process of creative work. So the message that Big conveys is really something that captures my attention and my imagination. I'm hoping that by sharing this analysis, which is very subjective, you could get an understanding of how working on all aspects of the employer brand would still give you an idea of how you can differentiate compared to competitors. I hope that was useful. Just give me a second to get some water. And as we're reaching the third part of our session today, I wanted to give you just a second to reflect on what we discussed just now. And if you have any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat box and I'll try to answer them at the end of the session. So in this next part, I'm going to share just a few quick tips. What more you could be doing as an employer to build further credibility for your employer brand. Using employee testimonials to build credibility. There are so many ways to capture employee testimonials with video, with written interviews. Actually, a lot of employees want to share their experience with the companies they work with. It's a matter of internal marketing and HR efforts to capture those stories. And of course, those informal stories that pop up when having coffee or when discussing a project, these are the gold nuggets you should be looking for. And once somebody shares such a story, just make sure you record it or you ask the person to take part in an interview. I remember one story that I was telling a lot back in my chaos group days, and it actually has to do with Corey. It's about celebrating the 10th anniversary of V-Ray, and we were in LA, and we were supposed to organize a party for all our clients that were visiting SIGGRAPH back then. And we're traveling from Europe. We don't know anything in LA. And we're hiring a venue. We're buying gifts. We were supposed to create those handmade lamps. They were made out of wood, and there was this message, there was this sign on them which said, 10 years lighting your ideas. And we shipped those lamps from Europe, and we were supposed to buy just the light bulbs from LA. And turned out that we were missing a very important component of the whole lamp. So this was the moment when the whole team got together, and I don't know if it was Corey's or Lon's truck that we started going around all the the garden centers and the hardware stores to try to find something that would fit that lamp. And finally we found it. But this story is something that I was telling later on to other employees, newer hires at the company who are involved in creating the biggest computer graphics event in Southeast Europe called Total Chaos. And they were like, oh, we're never going to do it. It's so hard. There's so many challenges. And I'm like, no, if you work as a team, there's always somebody who's going to help you out. We did it in LA, and we finally gave those gifts. It's a very simple story. But when told many times, it starts living its own life in the organization, informally in the culture and in the daily interactions. But also it's something that could be captured and communicated through external channels. So both Gensler and Bjarke Ingels, they're doing an amazing job highlighting employee testimonials and employee stories. And of course, if you're an architect, which I'm not, these go into a lot of details about the creative process and how you go about the technology workflow, what sort of tools you use. It's basically not only sharing how you feel about the company, but also what's the level of innovation and how forward thinking the company is, how it designs its workflows. It's such a rich medium of information that you can use by sharing those stories. Another tip is the role of leadership in employer branding. I'm not sure how many of you actually lead teams and how many of you are business owners on this call. But there's nothing that beats leading by example. And that's the main, I think that's the main essence of building a strong employer brand, is when leadership lives and exemplifies and shows on a daily basis those values and the mission of the company, and is also able to mentor the new hires at the company. That's when the employee value proposition starts to live a real life. And that's when employees have a very, very strong positive feeling about the company and want to share it on different review boards. So leaders who engage in mentorship and open communication, they boost retention. People want to stay with them. And it's also a very strong tool, especially for change management. You know that the industry has been experiencing so many hardships over the past, not even decade, 20 years. A strong leader can help retain people even in hard times when it's hard to get projects, clients are not happy, but people would just want to stick with you if you are the leader who exemplifies your values and culture. Work-life balance, very important in Europe. I don't know if it's very important in the United States, but especially after the COVID times, the wellness programs and time for your family, these have become really important. So if you can design for them and then communicate for them as part of your employer branding, I think that would make your brand even stronger, because people want to have a life, not only a profession. They want to take care of their families. They want to have time with their children. So if you can improve by design the work-life balance and then communicate it, I think that's a winning strategy. And last but not least, from the tips, is designing the innovative office spaces that support your culture. And I know that many architectural firms actually work on such projects for their clients. They're involved in a lot of research of how to design this future workplace that would allow for both collaboration, well-being, communication, that would be optimized for natural light, for clean air. And the question is, if you do already work on such projects for clients, do you focus on such office design for your own offices, and do you communicate it to the public? Because that seems to be important, also related to the wellness and employee well-being. So employer branding activities, I believe, and I think it's shown through experience, that they should be a mix between internal and external efforts. And companies that invest in culture and employee recognition and career development see higher retention rates. So by doing both internal and external initiatives, this would help you to strengthen your employer brand even further. That was the last before the last slide in that section. I want to leave you with some of the questions that you can reflect on, because it's a short webinar. We have less than an hour today, so I wanted to give you some key concepts, messages, case studies. I hope you got some new information out of this knowledge sharing session, but the bottom line is that it's all up to you. And if you are involved in employer branding, your job is first to make your company a cool place to work, and second, to communicate it to the market. So it's both a change-making role and also a communications role at the same time. And it's a very, very exciting role. And I want to leave you with those questions that would help you if you're not on this path yet, to think about them and to see what needs your attention, what you already have in place, and what you need to communicate better, what more channels you need to use in your communication, and do you need to make any improvements to your current messaging. I believe I'll be sharing my email at the end of the webinar, so I'm available to share this deck with you, or the ArcVision team can share the deck with you. Before we go to the Q&A, I just wanted to give you a short glimpse of what the AECO Space platform is. As I told you in the very beginning, this is something that we came up with because of trying to solve a problem for our clients. It's a new platform which allows both talents and companies to join. Both talents and companies can join for free, and they can create talent profiles or company profiles. And the company profiles allow you to shine a light on your employer brand. Think about this as your free real estate to showcase what you stand for as an employer, because the AECO Space platform aims to connect you with potential new hires. And if you visit the platform, you'll see that it's still work in progress. New companies, new talents are joining. And my role at AECO Space, hopefully it's the right role, is to help companies who are still on the path of defining their employer brand and communicating it successfully, helping them create a winning profile on the platform. Of course, we're available for other questions as well, but if you want to join the platform and create a profile that talks about your employer brand and attracts people to it, I'm here to help you in that direction. I've taken a screenshot of one of the companies that we have here in South Europe. It's Red Vertex. They're involved in architectural visualization, and we help them come up with a short and concise description of what they stand for, what their culture and values are, to select the right pictures of their team dynamics and what they stand for as an employer, to select the best projects that they take pride in so that they can show potential employees what they do and get them excited about it. And after we did that, we also took an interview with them and we put it in our ebook dedicated to employer branding in the architectural industry. And this book is available if you scan this QR code, or we can also send a link to it after the webinar. So it would be part of the resources that you get after the webinar from ArcVision's team. Next topics that we could cover, if you're interested in future webinars, are the deep dives of employer branding, because this was just a very helicopter view of the whole topic. It's how to define your EVP, how to go about your employer value proposition, what's important, how to design a workshop, how to determine your ideal candidate persona, which might be different compared to other competitors in the field, Social media presence for employer branding, how many posts to have, what kind of channels to use, what kind of content to put out in social media that's gonna help your employer brand shine. And the last but the most important one is how to design employee experiences from the standpoint of the hero's journey, so that your employee experiences get to be the stellar ones for your employees, and then the employees share about them with excitement and with inspiration, and they're happy to share what they went through as part of the process at your company. Debbie, I see that you are here, so that's my email, and I'm open for Q&A. I'm not sure what the time is, and I hope I'm on time.
You are doing great. Thank you so much, Angelina. That was super helpful. And I appreciate your story about the lamp. I remember the lamp. Totally got that. I remember putting it together, plugging it in, and it lit up. And it was awesome. So
Oh, thank
anyway,
you. Yeah.
do appreciate that. So I guess I'm going to turn it over and let's see if we have any questions. I think, let's see, probably our first one would be, what digital tools can help promote my employer brand?
Not sure if that's the case for the audience here on the webinar, but when we were creating the platform, we did a survey among architectural firms and studios in Europe, and we asked them what are some of the most important things for you when promoting and communicating your job ads. And most of the respondents said that it's important for them to communicate more in digital channels, which kind of led us to think that of course the industry is very innovative. It's very groundbreaking when it comes to working on projects, but when it comes client projects. But when it comes to communicating your own value and your employer brand, probably you're not using as much the digital channels that are available out there. I would say it depends on what is your ideal candidate persona. For example, if you're looking to recruit more interns for your internship program, you know that these are more, the younger generation is out there, and they're not using Facebook. They're using Instagram, and they're using TikTok. So if you want to go after this kind of people, create short, super short, punchy videos, maybe focusing on different aspects of your employer value proposition, just cutting them, in bits and pieces and communicating them in small videos, and also trying to shoot videos that are as authentic as possible without any editing whatsoever. Just trying to showcase the real world environment that you operate in, and how your desks are organized, what your colleague on the next desk is working on right now. So just try to capture such organic content in vertical form that's optimized for mobile phones, and use Instagram and TikTok. However, if you're trying to go after more experienced architects, probably LinkedIn would be a good place, and also some channels such as the AECO Space platform could be a good place to do it, because people go there, they publish their talent profiles and their portfolio, and they are looking for interactions that have more business nature, and are not so informal. So LinkedIn and the AECO Space platform for people with more experience. I might come up with more answers, but that's for now.
Thank you. I'm gonna say doesn't look like we have too many more questions. That's a good one. Should my company have a separate social media account for business and employer brands?
It depends. Depends whether your social media accounts are part of your marketing function or your HR function. So if your marketing function is in charge, maybe have it all in one place. Also, I believe, it's my personal conviction, and I'm not saying it's the right answer, but I believe that a company's all its facets. It's the products, it's the services, it's the employee experience. So I believe that a candidate would get the best idea and the best picture of your employer brand if they are able to see it all in one place. So
Good
one
point.
account fits all.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we don't have any additional questions, just kind of giving everybody a chance here to put it. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again so much. We appreciate it. And hopefully
Yeah.
we'll have more to show everyone soon.
Thanks very much. And if you have any questions, just feel free to send me an email, or if you have questions about the platform, you can direct them also to the ArcVision team, and we'll try to answer them. And we look forward to seeing you on the platform with your best employer branding presence as a company profile page.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.